Hey, Beastista here, and welcome to week 3 of the VDL. This week we're playing against Otto and the Trixie Tricos. This is definitely going to be a tough week because, Otto is a 2-time champion in the VDL, and so whenever you're playing against a great player, it's always hard in general. But not only that, the matchup is also fairly tricky. So looking at the matchup, I'd say the big thing you can kind of see is that they have a very fast fake out in Raichu. And in addition to that, they have a reasonable Trick Room mode in Caparaja, and even like Tapu Fini is pretty good in Trick Room because, as you see, my team is very fast for the most part. But however, I'm also kind of in this awkward position where not only do I have to account for that Trick Room mode, they also could lead with Drift Bloom, with Unburden and Misty Seed to be able to get up a very fast Tailwind, and so they can also run fairly fast team with like a fast Tapu Fini with Tailwind, or maybe like a Charizard or a Crocodile. So definitely they'd be able to account for both of those, or even like a Choice Scarf on the Lunatone type of thing. And so that's kind of the big concern with this and that. So with that, let's get into the team I decided to bring. So this is the team I decided to bring. So I went with a Misty Seed Howlucha with Taunt. The main idea behind this is if I wanted to lead that into the possibility of a Drifloom lead, I have the ability to outspeed it even with the Unburden boost and taunt it. In addition to that, we also get the Misty Seed to get the special defense boost, and Howlucha has naturally not the best special defense, but it has an okay defense, so it can be pretty bulky with the +1 special defense. And with that, I have Sword Stance to be able to get some good acrobatics and drain punch damage, and also with the Unburden to basically outspeed anything, even if I don't set up my own Tailwind or something to that extent. Next up, we have Yachi Berry Landorus with Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, and Rock Slide. Pretty much everything gets hit by Earth Power and Sludge Bomb. The only thing that really doesn't get hit by Earth Power and Sludge Bomb is the Drift Bloom, and that's why I have Rock Slide. And then the Charizard is also, Rock Slide's probably a little bit more damage than the Sludge Bomb would be. But other than that, it's just kind of there to do big amount of damage as per usual. Next up, we have Focus Sash Thunderous with Sludge Bomb, Thunderbolt, and Weather Ball. So the idea behind Weather Ball is that Tornadus is going to be running Rain Dance, so I can either counteract any Sun leads they want to go with, but also get some water coverage into some Pokemon that I might not be able to hit otherwise. And the Sludge Bomb and the Thunderbolt kind of covers most of their team reasonably well. So next up, we have the Assault Vest Mantine with water and flying coverage that hits everything on their team for at least neutral. And Hydro Pumps and Scalds in the rain do huge chunks of damage, and Hurricane in the rain being 100% accurate does huge chunks of damage as well. Next up, we have Swoobat. So Swoobat, the main idea behind it is just simple Calm Mind. So get +2 defense, +2 special attack, +2 special defense, and then Stored Power and Air Slash do huge chunks of damage. This pretty much hits everything for very good damage except for the Caparaja. I strongly considered running like Heat Wave instead of Protect, but I thought that Protect seemed a little bit more important. In addition to kind of being able to set up and to do this in the general sense, it also is a good Pokemon to kind of trick my opponent into thinking that I might have Trick Room and Prison, so that they might be a little bit less likely to click Trick Room on turn 1. And then finally we have Tornadus, which is fairly bulky with Tailwind, Taunt, Rain Dance, and Hurricane. I honestly considered not running Tailwind at all because my team is a lot faster than them, and the only way in which they get punished is they, having a Drifloom that has Unburden and sets up their own Tailwind, and Taunt kind of deals with that pretty well. And so I considered not running Tailwind, but I decided to run Tailwind just to be safe. And so one of the big leads that I'm expecting to run are probably going to be like Tornadus and Howlucha, or Tornadus and Swoobat, to kind of make my opponent either be careful in clicking Trick Room or try my best to kind of get rid of Trick Room by doing the double taunt. So anyways, with that, let's get into the match. So here we are for the match. My opponent has a lot of Pokemon I was expecting. The big one that they didn't decide to bring was the Drift Bloom, which means that I believe that I will definitely be faster than pretty much their entire team, as long as I can prevent Trick Room. And so the main idea with this first game is say, okay, let's try to prevent Trick Room. And I think the easiest way to kind of prevent Trick Room is probably the Tornadus and the Howlucha, because I can just double taunt into the Lunatone and be able to counteract a fake out from the Raichu. And then from there, the main idea is just kind of what's going to be in the back. And Mantine does look very good. The both of one of their Fizzlemons being Crocodile makes it be very, which it does very good damage in, makes it nice. And then Landorus definitely seems necessary as pretty much one of my better answers to the Caparaja. And so with that, let's get into the match. So my opponent leads Raichu Lunatone, and I lead the Tornadus Howlucha. So this is pretty much the standard lead that I was expecting to see. I don't have a great answer to it, and this is kind of the best I think I had, which is just double taunt into Lunatone and hope that it's not Mental Herb, or that if it is Mental Herb, that they don't go for the fake out on the Raichu. So fake out of Raichu goes into the Howlucha. And Tornadus ends up successfully getting the taunt off into the Lunatone. However, Lunatone does in fact have Mental Herb, sadly, and so they are able to get up a Trick Room on turn 1, which is definitely very awkward. So from here, there's not much to do other than possibly do some switch outs, because Hurricane does not do much damage. And so I decided to switch out into the Landorus here. And I was considering doing a Swords Dance, but I definitely don't think Howlucha is bulky enough to take more than like 1 or 2 hits. So I decided to just go for a little bit of damage, and I was debating between Drain Punch on the Raichu or the Lunatone. I decided the Lunatone because I was more concerned of it at the moment. So we bring in the Landorus, and the Power Gem of the Lunatone goes into the Landorus, doing a lot of damage. More than I was hoping, but luckily not more than 50%, so I should be able to take another one. The Volt Switch goes into the Howlucha, doing massive damage, which definitely sad. And however, they end up bringing out the Tapu Fini, which activates a Misty Surge, which lets me increase my special defense of my Howlucha using the Misty Seed. And so, definitely, and then we also reveal Misty Seed on the Tapu Fini. So definitely a little bit awkward, because now I'm very fast after my Unburdened boost, and my Drain Punch did not do a huge amount of damage. And so here, there's not much to do other than just protect, and then I'm debating between just going for attack or switching out. The main idea of switching out is if they go for like an Ice Beam, my Mantine takes it very well. However, if there's a non-zero chance if they just attack boom just Lunatone, my Howlucha does survive the Power Gem, and so I'm like, oh, maybe I should just go for the attack, and I go for the attack with the Acrobatics, which is going to do a very big chunk of damage to Tapu Fini if it does hit. So Ice Beam on Lunatone goes into the Landorus, and then the Moonblast on Tapu Fini goes into the Howlucha, killing it. I definitely, definitely did not take it. I would not have. There's not much that would prevent me from surviving that, but definitely not the best position. So now I'm debating between if Mantine or Tornadus seems better, and I decide on the Mantine. Because the Mantine seems like it's a fairly good wall into the Tapu Fini. And so here the main question is, do I want to keep in Landorus to a possible Ice Beam or switch out into Tornadus? I think the main argument of switching out is that Landorus seems a lot more important than Tornadus in the late game. The plus side of staying in is that I should be able to take an Ice Beam because I have a Yachi Berry, and they likely won't go for the double up because they don't want to go into a double protect, for example. And so here I decide to go for the damage into the Tapu Fini, and I decide to go for the Scald into the Lunatone, hoping to get the kill here. So Power Gem goes into the Mantine, doing a massive amount of damage despite me having the AV, which is really awkward. And the Ice Beam goes into my Landorus, and with the Yachi Berry, I still die, which is really sad. I definitely was hoping to survive that hit, but without it, I'm in very bad shape. And not only that, the Scald ends up barely missing out on the KO, and I really hoped for the burn, but didn't get the burn. So now I'm in very bad shape. Question my decision of maybe I should have just gone for the Hydro Pump to kill the Lunatone there. But here, now it's the final turn of Trick Room, and I'm trying to figure out what's a pathway to victory. And I'm like, okay, maybe Rain Dance is the pathway to victory, because then Mantine can maybe sweep up in the end game. Or maybe I should just go for damage into with the Tornadus and try to get a little bit of chip on the Tapu Fini and just hope to survive with the Tornadus. And I decided to go for the Hurricane there into, the Hurricane into the Tapu Fini, and then I decided to go for the Scald into Lunatone to hopefully pick it up. So Power Gem goes into the Mantine again, and Mantine once again barely survives. And Tapu Fini is able to get a Calm Mind. So with the Calm Mind boost, I'm feeling very bad since both my Pokemon are special attackers, and I don't really see a clear pathway to victory, especially with Raichu having Fake Out in the back. And not only that, my Hurricane also misses. So definitely not looking like a very bad game to me, and I definitely don't see any pathway to win unless they just actively start hitting their own Pokemon. However, on the bright side, there's not much game left to lose. So here I just go for the Rain Dance, and with the Rain Dance, the Hydro Pump hopefully can kill the Raichu, and maybe I'll feel a little better about myself. However, they Fake Out into my Tornadus, and the Hydro Pump successfully connects into the Raichu and does a bunch of damage, but doesn't quite kill it. And I was definitely very disappointed there because I wanted to see whether or not Raichu was Focus Sash or not, which would be very useful information going into Game 2. But sadly, because I didn't do enough damage, it ends up, not revealing its item. And so now the game's pretty much over, and there's not much reason for me to show any attack other than the ones I've already showed, so I click Hurricane again. And we click Hurricane and successfully miss again. Definitely really awkward. We got two, but I don't know if either of those Hurricanes would have actually mattered. But sadly, not only did we miss there, and we're losing, they also get to see our item on our Landorus, or our the Tornadus, which is the Citrus Berry as well. And however, we do get to see their last Pokemon, which is Caparaja, which is noteworthy, but not super worthy enough to let us win. So with that, let's get into Game 2. So here we are for Game 2. So that was very bad game, and so now I'm kind of thinking about a way to maybe prevent them, to convince them to not click Trick Room on turn 1. And so my thought is I can lead Swoobat, and if I lead Swoobat, then maybe that plus another Pokemon that has very high damage output into the Lunatone, I might be able to convince them to not click it, or if not, I might have like a roll to maybe kill them. And so I was leaning towards Thundurus because I thought it was going to be a nice Pokemon to have, but then I'm like, oh wait, Thundurus doesn't actually threaten Lunatone at all with the one-hit KO, and so I decide Mantine is probably the best, because I think Hydro Pump has a chance to possibly one-shot it. And so the idea here is that Swoobat will look like it's going to have Imprison Trick Room, and I can lead Mantine to Hydro Pump and hopefully one-shot the Lunatone if I'm lucky. And then in the back, I decided that Landorus seems very important to deal with the Caparaja, and it also does very good damage into kind of the vast majority of their team. And then the Tornadus just seems pretty useful at Rain and Trick and Taunts and stuff. So they lead Raichu Lunatone again, which is unsurprising. I lead Swoobat Mantine. And so here I am definitely expecting them to just Fake Out into the Swoobat and go for a Trick Room. And so I'm just go for the Calm Mind and the Hydro Pump into the Lunatone, hope to get the one shot. And if I don't get the one shot, I definitely think I'm in very bad shape. But if I do get the one shot, I think I probably am in a very commanding position. So they actually end up switching out Lunatone, which is definitely something I wasn't expecting to see right there. And with that, they get the Misty Surge up. And we're able to get a very clean Calm Mind up for Swoobat, getting it up to +2 special attack and +2 special defense, and not having a Trick Room setter up. So Volt Switch ends up going into the Mantine, doing a very big chunk of damage, and they're able to switch out into the Copper Raja. This is definitely really sad because if, and I missed the Hydro Pump too. Not great. Anyway, so this is really sad because I ended up. Copper Raja is the only Pokemon that resists both Stored Power and Air Slash, so it's really awkward for my Swoobat because this is like literally the only Pokemon on their team that I do not have a great damage output into, and so here I decide that there's not really much I can do except hope that I can kill it with a double up because any attack from Copper Raja is likely going to kill Swoobat. And so I just go for the Hydro Pump, Stored Power. That's the most damage I can do, and with it, hopefully I can get the kill. So Stored Power does pretty good damage, honestly, given the fact that it's resisted and Swoobat's not the bulky or like highest damage output Pokemon. And then we get the Hydro Pump off, and we do not get the kill, and very sad. And then not only that, this Ice Beam honestly does more than I was expecting with me being at +2 special defense, enough to make me in range of this Rock Slide, getting the double knockout. And so now I'm in a devastatingly poor position, and I definitely am not feeling great about my decision to have Tornadus right now in the back because it does not seem like it's particularly useful. But Landorus does seem pretty good. And so here, pretty much, I think all I can reasonably do is go for a Hurricane and an Earth Power, or a Hurricane and a Sludge Bomb. And so I'm debating on whether or not to do Earth Power into the Copper Raja or not. Because it seems very obvious that I'm going to Earth Power into the Copper Raja. And so I was just checking to see if they have any switch-ins, which they obviously have Lunatone in the back. And so I'm like, is it worth clicking this with the Lunatone in the back as a free switch-in, especially when it's obvious that I can just Earth Power it. And so I decided to just go for the double up into the Tapu Fini. And our Hurricane, however, misses again. And we do get a Sludge Bomb off, luckily, and Sludge Bomb does a little bit under 50%, which is not the best. However, this Ice Beam into my Landorus is going to do a huge chunk of damage, even though I do have the Icy Berry, and unluckily I also get frozen. Definitely not the best. However, luckily for me, this freeze didn't really matter because the Rock Slide kills my Landorus, which I definitely was hoping to survive that Rock Slide, or at least one of them to miss. And so with this game is definitely over. Definitely not the best match for me. I'm not sure exactly how I could have improved. Like this match, I think I could have improved if I would have brought Hawlucha in the back, or if I had Heat Wave on my Swoobat. But definitely it looks like a very bad game on my side. We do go for the Hurricane into the Copper Raja, but sadly we do not get the kill on it, and its Heavy Slam is able to kill me. And with that, we get dominated. 0-2 loss, completely terrible loss. And with that, we get our second loss of the season, and we are at 1-2. Looking very bad for me. I definitely think we've seen some major issues with my team so far in the last 2 weeks, and even a little bit in the first week too. So with that, thank you for watching.